Ahoy there, creepers. Welcome to Create and Destroy. I'm your host, Dan Donnarumma, and this is episode number 11. I'm super freaking excited about today's episode and my guest today. My guest for you today is Maya Stoner. Maya is the woman behind Floating Room, and as Kyle Bates and I discussed last week, she also contributes to Drowse. Maya and I discussed Floating Room's most recent release, False Baptism, which came out on June 22nd. That's an album that is one of probably 5 albums that are in contention for my pick for album of the year. I've listened to it so freaking much since it's released. It's such a phenomenal album from start to finish, and there's some really incredible songs on that album, and there's some really great moments on that album. It's such a phenomenal record. So we talked about that album. We also talked about her previous release, Sunless, which came out in 2016, and then we talked about how she got into music and how she wound up making and writing music. So let's get right into it. Here's my conversation with Maya Stoner. How's it going, Maya? How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I just had band practice, and that was fun. Yeah, my bandmates' parents came to town, and they visited us during band practice, which was really cute.
Was it weird to, play in front of them during practice?
It actually was pretty weird. No, it was Drake, who's playing bass with us right now. He's from the Bay Area, and his parents flew in to visit. And so... yeah, it was the first time I met them, and I could kind of tell that Drake got nervous performing for them. But it's also, in a tiny practice-based room. I don't know, the whole thing was, very cute, but also pretty weird.
Have your parents seen you play before?
Yeah, my parents are really supportive. Actually, recently I hung out with my friend Aaron, and he was he revealed that he had met my mom before me because he came to one of my shows, and he was, in line for the bathroom, and my mom was like, "That's my daughter up there," and just to a stranger in line. But yeah, I don't know, they're very supportive.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And so before we get into some of the questions I have for your music, I wanted to talk to you about Portland, Oregon. So I did an interview last week with Kyle Bates, and you guys are both from Portland, and I was telling Kyle that's one of the places, even though I've never moved there, I've never visited there, that I kind of want to move there. And so I was asking him, what are some negatives about the city? So I'll ask you the same thing. What's a negative about Portland?
The price of rent is going up. There's a Portland stereotype based off of that show Portlandia, which can be kind of annoying, but honestly, I was born and raised here, and I absolutely love Portland. And I think that a lot of the people that do play out the stereotypes that you see in that show are people that secretly just moved to Portland because they liked that show. I'm not, okay, this sounds like I'm shaming people for moving to Portland. I don't know. I just think Portland is super legit, and people shouldn't make fun of it. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like such a cool city.
It's awesome.
Kyle had said to me that it rains a lot there, and I Googled it. It only rains 2 or 3 inches more a year than I live in Rochester, New York. So it's very similar in the annual rainfall, which I was not surprised by because I feel like it's always freaking raining here.
Oh, well, then you're all ready to move here. Right now it's really smoky. There's a lot of fires all along the coast, and they've been telling people to stay inside. I deliver pizzas, and they... the company I work for gave us all, kind of doctor's masks to wear on our deliveries.
Oh, it was surgical masks?
Yeah. So apparently it's unhealthy to breathe the air right now.
Yeah, I remember. So the last 2 summers I've taken trips out to the West Coast, and there was fires freaking everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Last summer I was in California last summer, and we were in Sequoia National Park, and you could see smoke from Yosemite that had traveled to Sequoia. It was kind of crazy.
It's hellish out there. We went through like LA, not this last time, but like another time, and it looked like the Lord of the Rings. Like the hills were on fire. It looked insane.
So what would you say is like one of your favorite things about living in Portland?
I think there's just a wealth of creativity. I mean, I honestly think that it's probably the same where you live. The fact that it's rainy a lot kind of supports just staying inside and working on stuff. Like, I don't know. I'm like an introvert and an extrovert, but sometimes in the summer, because it's finally sunny, I feel this pressure to like be social. But it's kind of nice to not have that most of the year.
Yeah, so you're like an ambivert.
Is that a word?
Yeah, it's like someone who is a mixture of extroverted and introverted. I learned this at work. That's the only reason why I know this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, how do you feel Portland has shaped you as a musician?
I owe so much to Portland. Like in the 6th grade, I went to the rock and roll camp for girls, and basically women just volunteer there to teach young girls how to play guitar, and it really goes beyond that too. Like, for instance, like they would make us mix CDs and stuff, so I was introduced to really cool music. They took me to a Sonic Youth show, and I got to meet the band, and that was like huge for me. So yeah, I think that I have Portland to thank for playing music.
And so was that when you first like started playing guitar? Would you say 6th grade?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And the rock and roll camp for girls is really cool because honestly, they basically just teach you how to like read tabs and write tabs and then do like the most basic bar chord. But the whole point of the camp is to start a band and write an original song. So, and then they do some stuff that's kind of like workshops that are empowering in a feminist way. I never really took guitar lessons, but I just learned how to be in bands, and that's how I got good at writing and playing guitar.
That's really cool. What was the name of the camp? Do you remember?
Rock and Roll Camp for Girls. Pretty self-explanatory,
That's awesome.
Yeah. But they have... It started in Portland by... it was actually this woman named Misty's college project, but now I think they've popped up all over the world.
Yeah, Rochester has something, I don't know if it's like the same thing, but it's very similar. It's called Girls Rock, which is pretty sweet.
Oh, I bet it's related. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what kind of guitar you got for your first guitar?
Yeah, my first guitar was so cheesy. My dad picked it out. It was a BC Rich Mockingbird. It's like one of the... It kind of looks like a guitar Prince would have, but less cool.
So I did an interview with the dude who's the lead singer for Funeral Advantage, Tyler Kershaw. And this is so bad if it wasn't him, but I'm like 98% sure it was him that said that his first guitar was a Mockingbird as well.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Well, he has the same taste as my dad. Actually, I don't know. I remember, my first band in middle school, I was in this all-girl punk band, and so I had the BC Rich Mockingbird, and the bassist had a BC Witch the BC Witch, that'd be tight. BC Rich Warlock. So yeah, it's just like there's like a lot of pointy guitars and mohawks and stuff.
Yeah, dude, I thought that those guitars were like the coolest thing when I was younger.
Oh man, yeah, I could send you a photo of how I have this photo of me playing it, and I have like camo pants that zip into shorts. Yeah, I was really cool.
Dude, camo. So you had like convertible pants that were camo, and then a BC Rich Mockingbird. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And what made you want to start playing guitar?
It was so far back it's hard to remember, but I remember seeing bands, and there's just like, it just looked so fun, and it looked like powerful. I honestly, like, I had so much social anxiety when I was younger that it probably looked appealing because it was like the opposite of how I felt on the regular.
Do you remember like where your love or your interest for music stemmed from?
Honestly, not really, because I think I wanted to play an instrument before I actually had my own music taste. Like, I took some drum lessons, like, probably like in the 3rd grade, and my drum teacher asked me to bring some music to the lesson so that I could drum along and practice to it. But I didn't actually really have my own taste in music then, so I just took my sister's CDs. And she had like a Britney Spears CD, and I put that on, and the song was so cheesy that he was like laughing at me, and he didn't realize it, but I felt like dying inside that he was like laughing at me. But I would laugh too. It was like a Britney Spears love song, like set in space or something.
Oh my God. Do you remember what song that is? I've not really like listened to Britney Spears, so I'm not sure what song that is, but it sounds wild.
I don't know the name of it, but there's like a sample in the middle that's like, and there's just a talking part in the middle of the song that's like, actually I can't remember it. I don't know. My sister used to take me to see like, my older sister, she'd take me to see like Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears and shit, So
like when you started to discover like bands and music that you were into, what type of bands were you starting to listen to?
Like in elementary school, the first bands that I got into were, this is like probably not cool, but like I think I probably was inspired by Avril Lavigne. That was like when I was like in the 5th grade. She was out and like No Doubt and stuff. That was like the first time that I had seen women doing that. But then, I don't know, going to the girls' rock camp, they introduced me to Kill Rock Stars and K Records, and my mind was just like absolutely blown. Like, I discovered Riot Girl music, but also like Mira and like the microphones and stuff. Like Slater Kinney to me was huge. Like I got to see them and the way that they perform, they're like 70s rock star gods, and that was just really empowering for me.
Awesome. And do you remember like at what point it was that you were thinking you wanted to make your own music and playing bands?
Yeah, honestly, like I think I had like, actually I don't remember. I think I just always thought it looked really fun. I remember seeing bands and then telling myself, like, I have to do that. Like, even just, like, this is such a horrible band, but, like, I had a classmate that took me to see, this is such a bad band, but she took me to see Bowling for Soup in the 6th grade. No offense.
So wait, that name sounds familiar, but you have to remind me, like, because tell me what a song of theirs was.
I don't remember. I just remember it was really bad. I could like look one up right now, but I don't know.
Because that name totally sounds familiar, and I feel like they were like a late 90s, right? Like early 2000s kind of like pop band.
Yeah. Oh, God, I really want to look it up right now because it's escaping me. I haven't listened to it since then. But I don't know. I guess that like the story that you're told is that like tween girls go see a band and then they get a crush on the people in the band. But really, it's like, I don't know. It was just like, fuck, I want that power. I want to be like on stage, like doing that cool stance and just feeling that.
That's awesome. And prior to playing in Floating Room, you played in a couple bands, right?
Yeah, I pretty much have always been in bands since I was in middle school.
What was the name of the first band that you played in?
Oh, God, this is really classic. My first band was called Plasmic Stallion.
That totally makes me think of like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
I've still never seen that. I don't know where that name came from.
Oh man, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is such a good movie. Yeah, what that something Stallions. Oh, I'm totally drawn a blank in it, but it's something
Stallions. Is that it?
Yes, thank you. Yes, Wild with a Y. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that just when you're in middle school, you're not really good at coming up with good band names.
And so you were like, what kind of music was it that you were playing at this time?
It was like that kind of punk music that's like where you just play like 3 chords over and over. And I don't know, like our vocalist, her name was Shiny, and she had this cool mohawk, and she had a megaphone. And actually, looking back, it's kind of funny, because there's like a lot of cursing. Like, there's this one song that was, the lyrics were literally, man stealer, bitch stealer, Y-O-Y, man stealer, bitch stealer, spit in my eye. These weren't my lyrics, these were Shiny's. But I don't know, looking back, it's so funny to imagine, like, a tween singing about someone being a man stealer.
Did you play guitar in that band? Did you sing? Like, what was your role in the band?
Yeah, I played guitar, and I think I did some backup vocals.
That's amazing.
I mean, there was even a song, like, there's a song that was about our principal, where it was like, it was like as if it was about a fucking dictator, where it'd be like, our vocalist would pretend to be the song was called Gather the Children, and then our vocalist would be like, get in line, everyone, don't talk, don't speak up, and we'd be like, I hate you, fuck you, like scream. Wait, am I allowed to curse in this?
Oh yeah, feel free.
Okay, yeah, I don't know, it just, also like, I remember people would be like, wow, this band's really cute. Because obviously we were cute because we were like tiny babies. And we'd be like, wow, that person was being really patronizing. I don't know. We were really punk.
Do you have like recordings or like a CD or something from your music in that band?
Yeah, actually we do. It's just like, thanks to the Rock and Roll Camper Girls, they had like, we just went to the facilities and someone recorded us there. That's
so cool. And when did you start writing songs for Floating Room? Like, at what point were you writing like songs and music that you would eventually use for Floating Room?
Probably a little over, maybe like 2.5 years ago. Because we honestly, like 2 years ago on this day, we played our first like venue show, and yeah, we hadn't played for very long before that.
Was it the same individuals that play in the band now?
Well, mostly on that album that we recorded. So we recorded an album and then we got like a whole band together. But on the album Sunless, it's mostly me, but Kyle plays like synth or guitar or something like on most of the tracks too. But yeah, it's not the same people except for Kyle that we did the live stuff with.
Yeah, and so in 2016, right, you released Sunless, and I really enjoy that album. I think it's such an excellent album.
Thank you.
How would you describe... Oh, you're welcome. How would you describe that album and the songs on it?
I mean, what me and Kyle described it as was like gray pop. Like, kind of like... It's like... that was like slowcore influenced, but also like Dido influenced. Yeah, like just slow pop songs, maybe. That was like a lot darker than our last album, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you how you feel it compares to your most recent album, False Baptism, which came out on June 22nd. Like, for me, when I listen to Sunless, it seems more gloomy. Like, some of the songs seem slower paced, and it just has a little bit more of a gloomy feel to me than False Baptism. And even though there are songs like in the latter part of Sunless, there are songs about being happy, and like being in a relationship and being happy about it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like with False Baptism, a lot of the lyrical content in that album is dealing with shitty stuff or trauma that you've endured, but melodically it seems more upbeat, I guess. And so like part of me, when I listen to False Baptism, I feel that this is you like saying, like, I've dealt with some shit, but I feel like I could get out of it on the other side. And I don't know if that is correct at all. But is any of that accurate?
I think so. I mean, to me, with Sunless, I was really still in shock from an abusive relationship that I was in before starting Floating Room. And so, like, the darkness was probably just a natural reflection of how I was feeling. And I was still like dealing with shit with Sunless, but I don't know. I kind of hope that. Well, on one hand, I think it kind of sounds like a little more like you said, like maybe like at parts like triumphant. On the other hand, I was still like thinking about all these traumatic things and figuring them out in my head. But to be honest, I felt kind of self-conscious having 2 albums about this trauma that happened to me, because it's kind of like hard to talk about that stuff. And so that I kind of thought it'd be cool to disguise these sad ideas with pop songs that sounded upbeat, so that like if you were at a Floating Room show, you could think that this was like a happy love song or something, but then you later find out it's about like going through some dark ass shit. Yeah. I also just like that, like, sad sounding songs with happy lyrics or happy sounding songs with sad lyrics. I've always liked that.
Yeah, I really, really enjoy your lyrics. I think that you write brilliant lyrics.
Wow, thanks.
You're welcome. How does writing lyrics usually look for you? Like, what's that process usually look like?
I think I do it differently than a lot of my friends do it. I've known a lot of people that are like, they spend like a ton of time on lyrics, and they like I've known people that have just like pages and pages for one song where they keep rewriting it. But honestly, I trust if I can sit down and write all the lyrics in one go, then I just feel good about it. Like, I trust that it's like a reflection of how I genuinely feel inside. But I know that's not a good technique. Like, I know you're not supposed to wait for inspiration to strike, but that's just how I do it.
That's really cool. I love the song Dog on your most recent record. Like, I think the lyrics to that song are so brilliant. And I read that the song was written some time ago about a previous relationship that you were in with an older individual where you had endured some abuse from that person, and that the first half of the song is from the point of view of a dog, and the latter half is the point of view of the dog's owner. How did you come up with the idea of writing about that experience and framing it from the point of view of a dog and its owner?
I mean, that's kind of genuinely how I felt. Like, I was in this relationship where, like, I started dating this guy when I was, like, 22, and he was, like, 38, and he was, like, in this, like, one of the most famous Portland bands, and I don't know, maybe I was kind of, like, a puppy in that, but also, like, I have a dog, and so, I don't know. It was easy to think about the perspective of a dog. Like, obviously, I'm not abusive to my dog. I love my dog so much. But, I mean, okay. Honestly, though, when I was in that abusive relationship, in a way, it kind of put my dog through hell, too. Because, like, the person that was abusive to me was also abusive to my dog and, like, kicked my dog and stuff. And so it's, like, it's not my fault that my dog experienced that. But, like, I don't know. I don't know, if a dog could just be free and running free and just eating some, I don't know. I just think, I don't know. Maybe I felt, I'm really rambling here, but maybe I kind of felt like, I mean, when you're like in an abusive relationship where like they're cutting you off from like your friends and you're just like in their house all the time, it could be like being a dog. Sorry, that was a really rambling answer.
No, you're fine. Dude, so... you don't have to like give their name or anything, but they sound like a piece of shit, and that's horrible that they treated you that way, and that they also were a piece of shit to your dog. What kind of dog do you have?
He's a Boston Terrier and a Pit Bull mix. He's amazing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's a rescue dog.
What's his name?
His name's Oki.
How old is he?
I'm not entirely sure how old he is because he went through a couple different pounds before I adopted him, so they didn't really know all the stuff. But I think he's like 10 or 11.
Dogs are the shit. I have a greyhound named Butters.
Aww.
And yeah, she's the
Butters.
first dog that I ever got to live with, and she's awesome. Her birthday was today. Or is today. Yeah, she's 7 now, so she's awesome.
That's awesome. She has the same birthday as my friend Blake, who I run my label with.
That's awesome.
Yeah, his birthday's
August
today.
25th. Good date.
Yeah.
So, False Baptism is on my short list of albums of the year. Like, I have listened to it so damn much since it was released.
That's so flattering. Thank you.
You're welcome. When you listen to the album for the first time, like what went through your head, or like what emotions were you feeling when you got to listen to it in its entirety?
Honestly, I kind of felt self-conscious because it was so different than Sunless that I was nervous that like people that liked Sunless wouldn't like it. Just somehow in the time since releasing that first album, just stuff that happened, and I just felt like a more self-conscious person and more shy, so that too.
Is it because of the fact that, like, you know, as we were talking before, there's a little bit more of I don't know if upbeat is the right word I want to say, I guess more up-tempo songs on False Baptism from Sunless?
Yeah. I mean, that made me feel kind of, I just didn't know if people would like it.
And how have you felt the reception to the album has been since releasing it?
I mean, it's pretty cool. I've gotten good feedback, even from some people where I'm like, oh, it's going to be too poppy for this person. They still seem to like it, which is good.
Yeah, I think it's such a great freaking album. And how long did the band work on that album?
This is probably not good to say, but it was written in a pretty short period of time because so Drowse, me and Kyle's other band, Drowse was booking studio time at The Unknown in Anacortes, and we figured, like, why not book a whole week and then just do both bands? That gave us, like, about a month and a half to, like, get all the songs together.
Whoa. Dude, that's impressive.
I mean, maybe some of them were already in the works. Like Dog I had written a long-ass time ago. And then there were 2 songs that we kind of did home recordings of and added them onto it. So it's not really all in that period of time. But yeah, I don't know. I guess, like, it makes it sound like we just, like, farted it out really quick. But honestly, I think that having limitations can be liberating. And, like, as an artist, if you give yourself a limitation of like a time constraint or like a subject matter, sometimes it becomes less intimidating to write.
Shit, man, I give you credit. Like, if I knew that I had to put together something like an album in a month and a half, I would be like shitting brick.
Who knows though? Maybe you think that, but like if you just book some studio time right now, then because then you have to follow your gut more.
Yeah, that's true. That's the thing. Like, I feel like I would constantly be doubting myself. Like, all right, I have such a short amount of time to get this stuff together, and I have to be very certain that I like this stuff.
Yeah, I make a conscious effort not, like, to try not to doubt myself in this way where it's like I'll write lyrics and I'll just tell myself not to think about anyone ever hearing them, even though eventually people will. But that's just like a writer's block waiting to happen.
I talked to Kyle about like writing poetry and stuff, and I am very hesitant to share that with people because of how, personal it is. So when you write stuff, do you get anxious about sharing it with others? Or do you write stuff that you say like, I'm never going to share this in a song or share this with others?
Yeah, definitely. For the writing process, I tell myself not to think about anyone else ever hearing it. And it's very much like writing in a diary. It's just like, I don't know. That's how it is for me. It's like processing shit. So I don't really feel like I choose what to write about. It's just like whenever I need to process. So that's how I write. But then Like, for example, when we were driving up to the studio to record the last album, I was like just vomiting the whole way. And like, again, we like drove up there to like mix, and I just was like feeling so anxious. And I don't know. It's just like, yeah, I do feel self-conscious because the songs are really personal.
You know, I can appreciate that a lot, because I think that's what, like, especially this most recent album, I can appreciate, because there's that vulnerability to your lyrics and what you're writing about. It's very personal. So I tip my cap to you, because I'm sure it's tough to write about this stuff and then to share it with others.
Yeah, I mean, to write about it feels good. Like, it feels fucking good. But then to share it with others, it doesn't always feel good.
One of the things that I really like about your music too is I really enjoy your vocals, and I think you have an awesome voice. How did you hone your vocals and your singing style?
Yeah, well, I had never really been the vocalist in any band. I had been like the secondary vocalist, where like if I was in another band, maybe like one or two songs on the album would have me singing, but I had never really been a vocalist before. And you know, I don't know. I kind of think that when I sing, it sounds similar to me talking. So I think it's just natural.
Do you sing a lot, like just throughout your day?
It goes in waves. Sometimes I sing a lot. Like, there's been times in my life where I just like, every time I walked my dog, I would be singing to myself and stuff. But then other times I don't really sing that much.
So I'm such a weirdo. I sing constantly. I love to sing, and like I'll sing songs that I'm really into at that point in time, and then I'll also just sing about, oh, I'm walking my dog Butters, and we're going for a walk.
I love
like,
that. I feel like I'm like that too. I think even as a kid I would do that. Like, my aunt was like telling my mom that like she remembers when I was a little kid, she was visiting us, and she like overheard me singing the song that was like, my mom is so mean. Just like, just to myself. And I remember doing that too, just like narrating my thoughts through singing.
That's awesome. So I'm glad to know I'm not the only weirdo that does that.
I like that you do that.
Yeah. I really enjoy that like sample that you used in the song Pure on False Baptism. Who is that individual that's speaking?
That's a sample from an 80s talk show called Ricardo, where Ricardo is interviewing like kind of like ravers, but like from the 90s. They're not really ravers. They're like New York cool kids with like cool outfits and cool hair. But yeah, that was just like, I don't know. They're all talking about how they do like ecstasy and stuff, but then they're talking about how they just want to live life to the fullest too. It's like positive, but I also think it's just very dark.
I totally agree with you, and I want to get back to that. But I want to know, how the hell did you find that clip? Like, how did you stumble upon some random interview from the 80s?
I really enjoy just going on little YouTube, just watching the weird shit that's on YouTube. I don't know how I found that, but you know what I like to do is, and this is what it sounds like on there too. It's like, I like to go on YouTube, and there's like a setting where you can slow down the video, but it makes people's voices sound lower, and it makes them sound weirder. But then it makes you appreciate how weird any video is weird when you slow down the video and you can hear them talking all slow. Yeah, I don't know. So I slowed it down with that sample too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that what you did in the song?
Yeah. I took the sample and then I like slowed it down, because then it kind of sounds like the person's drunk.
So I want to read this. So the quote is, "Beyond all of this, it's all about experiencing pure pleasure. You know, we're only here for a short time, and most people don't ever get to that point, and I don't want to get to where I'm 45 and regret anything. It's all about pleasure and love and love and love." So the first time I listened to the album and that song came on and I heard that quote, I was kind of like flabbergasted after listening to it. I wasn't expecting it. And I like immediately felt sad after hearing it, because it kept making me think about Like that's like one of my biggest fears in life is like living life and being old one day and like regretting shit. And then it also made me think about like people being in like loveless relationships, people like doing things that they don't want to do or like working jobs that they hate. So it just took me down this like freaking rabbit hole of like thought, and I totally felt bummed out after listening to it. I was like, shit, this sucks. So like, yeah, like what made you want to put that on the album?
I mean, honestly, what made me want to put that on was like, I guess what it reminded me of was like coming, like after I ended that abusive relationship, I was doing a lot of different like psychedelic drugs, but also, I don't know, like I remember like hanging out with people and doing drugs and being like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Like, we all truly love each other. Like, it sounds positive, but then like later those people end up like not being your friend at all. And maybe they're even bad people and you were never even friends. But like in the moment when you're all fuckered up, it's like, whoa, we're truly living life to the fullest. But I don't know. It's not really, you know, I mean, maybe it is. Who's to say?
Dude, I'm gonna sound like such a square right now. I'm like so anxious about doing any kind of like hallucinogenics that I could never bring myself to take any of that stuff. Like I feel like I'd have a goddamn panic attack if I took like mushrooms or something.
That's squarish. I mean, honestly, like a week ago I smoked weed and had an anxiety attack. At that point in my life, I felt like I had nothing to lose, and then that makes you less anxious to just like do psychedelics. Because, like, you and me now, we're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to, like, ruin my brain. Like, what if I never come back? Or, you know, like, but, like, then you're like, fuck it, I'll just destroy my brain. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, some of my friends tell me that that have taken mushrooms. They're like, yeah, it's incredible. And then I have other friends who are like, it's the worst fucking thing ever.
I mean, I do think that it was actually healing for me to take psychedelics. I think, too, like, I don't know, I would kind of like to take acid like once a year to like clean out the little junk drawer inside my head.
So I have a buddy of mine that like every year will like take mushrooms to basically do exactly what you're just saying, like to basically just be like, I'm gonna take some shrooms and just be alone with my thoughts and like basically deal with shit head on.
I think it definitely has that effect. It gives you like a different perspective. One thing that really helped me was like you just think about things as like, whoa, this is just a social construct. Or like a huge one for me was realizing like stories that I had always told myself about myself, but then I took psychedelics and I was like, wow, I don't have to be this way. It's just that I always had told myself I had to be this way. Wow, that sounds really shroomed out.
So I have like thoughts like that even when I'm sober as a bird. So like,
well, you don't need it then.
Yeah.
That third eye is open.
When I interviewed Kyle, who's also in Floating Room with you, I talked to him about what it's like to work with you. So I wanted to ask you, what is it like to work with Kyle, both for Floating Room as well as with Drowse?
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, it has ups and downs. Like, honestly, I am a Gemini, so I don't know. I'm kind of like someone that can get bored in relationships easily, but it's nice having stuff that we're always working on together, and it really keeps it interesting. At other times, though, if we're always working on band stuff and we're not making a conscious decision to, like, hang out and not work on band stuff, then it can start to feel like it takes a toll on the relationship, too. So it just takes, like, an effort to remember to, like, still go on dates. Because, I mean, it is hard to be bandmates, because especially, like, if you're dating and you're in a band together, you can, like, argue or something over, like, just songwriting and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask, like, how do you think your relationship with one another has impacted both yours and Kyle's music?
I mean, the cool thing is, like, I've dated other musicians. Like, pretty much everyone in Portland plays music, it feels like. But I've never actually wanted to play music with anyone I've dated before, but me and Kyle are influenced by a lot of the same stuff. So I feel really lucky to be able to play music with him. Like, I think he's a genius.
Yeah, when I spoke to Kyle, we talked about you guys recording the album at the Unknown, and we talked about using vibraphone. I think it's in Falling Room, right? Maybe. Did you guys see that thing and were like, we got to freaking use this in the album somehow?
Oh yeah, there was just a lot. There's so many cool instruments there. There was like these like antique drum machines that was like, they basically looked like a little village inside this box, but it was like a drum machine somehow. It was like looking inside a clock. Yeah, I don't know. It was just, that instrument in particular is like really satisfying to play and really pretty.
That's awesome. And so what was it like to record at the Unknown, which is co-owned by Nicholas Wilbur and Phil Elverum?
It was perfect. Like, we just slept on the floor, but that was so special to be just fully immersed in the recording situation. Like, you don't have to like, we didn't have to like leave to go to a hotel room and then be like, okay, we're going into the studio. It was like at night we would just improvise together and do like drones and stuff. It really added to the experience. And also Nick, the person that recorded us, he was just the coolest person. And even though we spent like all day together recording, he would show us around town every night, and we like went to karaoke and stuff. It was just, the whole experience was amazing.
That's really cool. Did Nick provide feedback or thoughts on the album as it was being recorded?
Yeah, he definitely did. Like, I think that my vocals sound different on the second album from the first, because I think, like, it's part of his style to just have, like, non-layered vocals and stuff. And I just feel like, yeah, he has this band called Hungry Cloud Darkening, which is really good, and me and Kyle both really like it, so we're like, oh, we trust this person's opinions.
When you reflect on False Baptism, the music, the work that went into crafting that album with your band, what thoughts or feelings come to mind?
I think the songs came out differently because the first album I like basically wrote by myself in my room, and then like Kyle would add like a synth or a guitar or something, and then I would like make the drums on Ableton just by like programming it. But like with False Baptism, we wrote with Alec and Sonia, and they're both like into way more fast-paced music and stuff, and I think it affected the way that the songs came out.
Do you have a favorite song off the album?
Honestly, Dog is like a really meaningful song to me, and it felt really special to finally record it.
And I know that you did the photography for the album, and Anya Greenberg did the illustration. You also did the art for Cold Air, the photography for it. Do you do a lot of photography?
Yeah, I'm like a visual artist. I can like draw or paint or do photos or videos. Yeah, I go to school for art too.
I was gonna ask like what other mediums that you dabble with. So you do a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, like I drew the cover of the Sunless album too. Yeah, I used to like drawing and painting a lot, but now I like video work. But I don't know. I just like thinking of myself as an artist and having that be all encompassing with like music and visual arts.
Now, I sadly haven't gotten to see Floating Room play. How does your live sets compare to the recording?
I don't know. The live sets are really fun. I think that we all really put our hearts into it. They're actually, okay, here's the difference. The main difference is we play very loud, almost to this point where it's like a lot of the time people are like, oh, I wish the vocals were louder, but it's just, yeah. Honestly, that's part of why we started making faster music too that was louder, is because it would just come across, I don't know, just like playing house shows and stuff, it'd come across better.
How do you think you've grown as an artist and a musician since Sunless was released?
I mean, this was like, I don't know. I guess I just feel I've grown a ton because I used to just be more of a supporting role in bands. And so I've learned how to like trust my own vision.
That's really cool. And when you reflect on 2018, how do you think this year has been for you so far as a musician?
I feel really creative recently. I mean, it can be kind of hard to be in a band. Like, everyone in Portland is in like 5 bands, so it can be hard to find time to write with your bandmates and stuff. But personally, I'm feeling really creative and excited. We already have like at least like 6 songs for a new album. Yeah, so I'm feeling really good about that.
Whoa, so like, do you guys have in mind when you might want to put out another album?
No. I mean, I want to make a point to have like the time of the album be like with the last 2 releases, we call them LPs, but I think that it'd be like cool to have like an album that was like a little bit longer. And so whenever we come up with that amount of songs, then I guess I would think about that stuff.
Nice. And what music have you been listening to lately?
A band that I've been really into recently was, have you heard of Spirit of the Beehive?
I've heard of them. I've never listened to them before, though.
Yeah, they're like my favorite smaller band right now. I've been listening to like some guitar rock music, like Krill or like Preoccupation or Woman. Yeah, also like Jenny Haval. I don't know. It's all over the place. Actually, I've been getting back into Animal Collective too recently.
You know, for some reason, I just could never get into Animal Collective. I know
they're
like,
kind of irritating.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something I could never like, and I know people love them. I just like, I don't know.
I mean, I kind of felt self-conscious saying I like them just now because I
really?
feel like I could. They're one of those bands where like if I hadn't liked it as like a teenager, I might not appreciate it now. But I do kind of think like I could see myself being easily annoyed by the vocals, particularly in that band, but I can overlook it.
And you've got a tour coming up with Floating Room, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Drowse.
And so what are some of the like, is it just a West Coast tour?
Yeah, we're just going through California and then to Las Vegas. It's like a week and a half or so.
Nice. And so after today, like where can people check out your music and keep up with what you've got going on?
Yeah, we're on Spotify and Bandcamp. We have a Facebook. I have an Instagram called Floating Dude. Yeah, any of those.
Sweet. All right, Maya. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was really fun.
Yeah, likewise. And there you have it, folks. That's my conversation with Maya Stoner. Man, I'm so envious of the fact that her and Kyle worked on this album for just about a month and a half and were able to put together such solid songs and a solid album. I wish I had that ability, but sadly I do not. So I tip my cap to Maya, tip my cap to Kyle for being able to work and put out an album like False Baptism in such a short amount of time. I think that's pretty freaking awesome. As always, I'll add links in the show notes to how you can listen to Floating Room, how you could check out False Baptism and hopefully cop some of their merch. I'll also add links to Drowse as well, just in case you have yet to check out Drowse. As Maya mentioned, they're going to be going on a run of West Coast dates. So go out and see Floating Room. I wish I freaking lived on the West Coast and could see them play sometime. That would be really freaking awesome. Follow Create and Destroy on social media. You can follow the show on Instagram, Tumblr, Facebook, all at Create and Destroy Podcast, and then as well as on Twitter at CreateDestroy_. All right, jabronis, as always, get out there, create something cool. I'll see you next time.